So it seems like most people have at least a little bit of experience using Google Apps for education. So that's good. We're going to hopefully give you a little bit more information and a few more tips and tricks that you can use that will be helpful for your teaching in person and potentially online next year. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to go through some of the functions of Google Meet. I know some schools did not use Google Meets, and I know some teachers didn't use it, so it can be helpful to go over some of that information. I'm going to do that first, and then we are going to walk through the process of setting up and features of Google Classroom, and we'll do that as a live demonstration. And then after that, we will go through our presentation, which covers different features for Google Slides, Google Drive, Google Docs, and Google Sites. And again, we did prepare the materials for this with the sort of intention that we would be working with people who perhaps have not used it very much, or maybe just used it for the first time during online learning this year. So I'm going to get started, and now I'm going to share my screen with you and walk through some features of Google Meet and then of Google Classroom. I'm going to run this very, I'm going to say casually. I want you to feel very comfortable, like I said, to ask questions. If you have any, Natasha will interject over the mic to ask questions. And this is going to be based off of sessions that I helped co-facilitate for co-workers at my school that I was teaching this year. I've actually run this session 2 different times for my own co-workers, and so I'm just going to follow the same overview that I use with them. And of course, if you need anything more specific or any questions, just pop it right in the chat there, and Natasha will let me know. All right, so I'm going to share my screen right now. And when you want to share your screen, I will show you guys here. So I'm presenting to everyone now, so my screen has changed. So when you are sharing your screen, if you are the teacher running a Google Meet, you need to make sure that you don't have too many tabs open, because it will slow down your computer and can cause things to lag. But also you have to keep in mind that your students, I'm sharing my full screen, so they would be able to see all of my tabs I have open. So if you Googled anything embarrassing recently, I advise that you don't have that tab open, and you may want to clear your search history as well, because if you go to open something in the address bar, it may pop up. So just some tips and tricks to keep in mind when you're sharing your screen. Now, in order to share your screen during a Google Meet, you click the button down here. It'll look different for you guys. For me, it says you are presenting, but when you initially click on it, you have to select which portion of your screen you are sharing, and also select OK to share the actual screen. So what I have explained to my students when we had our first Google Meet, I said there is no excuse that anyone in the class will be accidentally sharing their screen, because in order to do it, they actually have security sort of features by making you reconfirm it. There will be opportunities when we're doing some work together where I may ask you to share your screen, or if you have a project you're really proud of that you would like to share, that's a great opportunity, and we can look into that. But when I am presenting, or when we are working together in the class, there should be no mix-ups with that. It is a very deliberate process. Therefore, you can kind of set that expectation just so that students know how to be respectful of everyone else in the meet. Now, one of the things I do during my first Google Meet with students is I have everybody test their microphones, and I explain to them, you know, you can practice turning on your microphone and turning it off. And you can practice turning off your camera and turning it on. And if you'd like, you can turn on the closed captions. And I go through these things for students just so that they know what the options are. I also let them know that when they click this little menu here, they can select to change their layout. They can go for sidebar, spotlight, or tiled. I usually recommend tiled because then they can see the most people possible. And I also remind them not to turn on their mic unless it's their turn to talk, and to make sure they're listening to their friends when it's their turn to talk. And I usually show them how to use the chat box as well. And as a fun little bonus, I explain you can right click and you can access those emojis if you'd like to use them in a respectful manner while we are working together. And so these are some of the basic overviews that I provide to my students. And just to get things started. Now, if there's something I could do differently next year, what I would do differently is have a Google Meet with the parents and to go over the same features with the parents, because one of the pieces of feedback that I received during online learning from parents was that they didn't always know how to use the tools we were going over, and they would have liked to have a little more exposure themselves. So I would highly recommend, if we are transitioning into any type of online learning, that you host a Google Meet, sort of like a Meet the Teacher or an intro session with the parents in your class, so that you can show them how to access different features within Google that you will be using. And it's also just a nice way for them to connect and for them to see how Google Meet is used in the classroom. Another tip I have for Google Meet is to make sure that you set parameters and expectations for your students. So for example, I communicated to my students it was not appropriate for them to be, in their bedroom or their washroom when they were using the Google Meet, regardless of whether the mic is on or the camera is on, and that they should be in a sort of a public space within the home where an adult is nearby within earshot. It's better not to have them in a situation where they're in a room by themselves, just for kind of privacy and security reasons, and just so that the parents can also hear what you guys are doing in case there's any question about that. I don't record my Google Meet sessions with the students. So I'm going to move into some stuff for Google Classroom right now, unless there are any pressing questions people have about the basic functions in Google Meet. And you can pop those into the chat if you have a specific question about Google Meet. Actually, while you're thinking about that, there are some new features that are going to be rolling out hopefully soon. Exactly, Kelly. So there is going to be a feature for raising your hand. It should be coming soon. You can install a Chrome extension for that right now, but it's going to be added to Google Meet in the near future, which is helpful because then you can tell when someone would like to ask a question or make a comment. There'll also be an attendance feature, breakout rooms, so you can split students into small groups, custom backgrounds, polling, and an integrated whiteboard. Again, you can use Jamboard with Google Meet, but they're going to have these features integrated into the actual Google Meet app in the future. And I think there was a question there as well about the layout.
Yep.
Okay. So to access the layout, like you mean who you can see at what time, you click on the three dots right here for more options, and then change layout. You can also go full screen, turn on captions, and some other settings as well. One thing I will point out, if at any time your student says, I can't see the screen, or I can't see what you're sharing on the screen, they may have pinned themselves to the front of the screen. So if you hover over yourself and you see a little like thumbtack, you need to unpin yourself because you may have pinned yourself or another person to the screen. So if that happens, they just need to unpin themselves and then they should be able to see the screen. So I'm going to go with the presumption that everyone can see my screen right now because I haven't had anybody with that particular question. You cannot see the screen. Trudy, what do you see on your screen? Like if I click here, can you see when I'm switching screens? No? So Trudy, I think you have me pinned. Can somebody else tell me that they can see the rest of the screens when I've clicked through them? Just a quick, yeah, okay, so Joyce can see it. April, perfect. So Trudy, I want you to hover over my face and see if there's a little thumbtack showing up. And if there is, you should be able to unpin me. You may also be able to see that on the sidebar, but usually you can see it just by hovering over the person that is taking up your screen and not switching. So if you want to quickly try that and maybe just let me know if that worked for you. And while, Natasha, if it's okay with you, I will move on to the next section, and then if Trudy is unable to unpin that, perhaps you can give her a hand.
Yep, absolutely. Trudy, I'm just going to interject quickly. If you're still having difficulty, sometimes what helps too is to get out of the session and then rejoin it. I know that happened to me yesterday.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to hop over here, and when you're presenting, it should tell you, you are presenting to everyone, just to remind you in case you forget. So when you log into your GNESPES account, this is your launch page or your landing page. And what we're going to do right now is head into Google Classroom, and we're going to set up an example classroom. So I click on Classroom, and it will show me any existing classrooms that I currently have. So I have some example classrooms I've built, one that I used with my students this year. This is one for sharing professional development resources, and then some other ones from other teachers that have added me in to share resources as well. So when you want to create a new Google Classroom, you can go right up to this plus sign, and you can either join a class or create a class from here. So we're going to create a class. So we're going to say example, and you can add the other information if you need to. I'm just going to give it a name in the interest of time. So sometimes this takes a little while. There we go. So when you set up your class, you automatically get a class code. And what I've seen other teachers do, and what I like doing, is writing this code right up on the board in the classroom so that students have access to the class code if they somehow get removed from it or need to join. You can also generate your own class's Google Meet link right here, and it will pop it here in your banner, and you can either make it visible to students or not visible to students. What I like to do is make it not visible to students. Oh, I don't want to pop into the other Meet. I would make it not visible to students, and so we will change that in a minute there. Just because you don't have to be in the room in order for the Google Meet to work. That's another function that's hopefully coming soon, where they will make it so that when you leave a Google Meet, it actually closes with you. I have, when I did my Google Educator certification, that feature is available in some areas, but we currently don't have it. So what I recommend doing is when you create a Google Meet, when you share the link with your students, I post it in the stream of my classroom, and then I take it down after the Meet so that they don't have the access to it. Obviously, if they copy it and save it somewhere, they could go back and forth in it, but that would just be something maybe I would discuss with parents and explain that is how it works, and just to make sure that they're monitoring their children's internet usage. So with the classroom I have set up, you do have a banner here. In a video that's shared in our slideshow, will show you how to make your own animated banner if you want. But for now, you can actually upload your own photo or select a theme here that Google provides for you. I'll just leave it as the one they gave us to get started. So what I do when I'm creating a new class, you can give the code to your students to join, or you can go right up here to people, and you can either add other students or teachers. So I can click here and I can type in Natasha's name, and then I can add her as a teacher, and I can send her an invite, or I can add her as a student as well. So I will add Natasha as a student, and it auto-populates different people within the GNESPES system and other people that you have shared previously through your Google Apps with. So I'm adding Natasha here. She will get an email and she can join the class. And also, like I said, when you add other teachers, it says here, teachers can add, they can add anything, they can do whatever you want in the classroom except for delete the classroom. Only the person who originally created it can delete the classroom. So what I do with my students, and this is what I did in the fall because we used Google Classroom in person, I set up the classroom and I invited all of them to the class, and then I practiced going into their GNESPES account, logging in, accessing their Gmail, and then adding themselves to the class. So we did a day working on that, and making sure that they knew how to log into their GNES-PES, how to navigate to Gmail, and how to navigate to Google Classroom as well. So this is something you need to front load. You need to really train your students to do, but it is worth it in the end. So I will also, the dimensions for customizing the banner are in another presentation that you will be able to access later. What's important here is, so in your classroom, when you want to share an assignment, you have a couple different ways to do that. When you go under classwork, you can access, like right here, you can either create an assignment, a quiz assignment, a question, a material, or you can reuse a post. So if you have multiple Google Classrooms, and from previous years, you can actually reuse things in your classroom. And one of my favorite tips that I received from a Twitter friend was to create a Google Classroom that you use just for testing things yourself. So what I would recommend that you do today is set up a classroom, but make it your practice classroom. And then when you're getting ready to use it in class, you can practice generating materials and assignments and posts. And then you can either copy it to your new classroom or, you know, just practice and then use those skills in the new actual classroom. So right here, if I want to share an assignment or material, so there is a slight difference between assignment and material. An assignment, when I create it, I can give it a title. And then I'm just very, very basic information here. And then you can attach a file and you can upload something from Google Drive, a link you might have, a file on your computer, or a YouTube clip rather. I'm just going to go here and put response because I know I have. Okay. Let's try this again. I'm typing a little too fast. And I'm just going to grab this. It's a PDF that I generated before. And you select here, students can edit the file or students can view the file and make a copy for each student. If you are posting as an assignment, I recommend making a copy for each student, especially if it's something like a Google Doc or a slideshow, so that they don't accidentally edit each other's work. So here you can select for which classroom you want to post it, which students you would like to post it to. I currently don't have a full classroom here, so when you do have, 25 students, you can select which students receive which material, which is great for differentiation. When you do an assignment, it will ask how many points, or if you would like it to be ungraded. You can assign a due date, and you can list it by topic, which will help keep you organized. And if you would like to create a rubric, you can actually build it right in Google Classroom. The software and all the tools you need are right there to create that rubric. I'm going to not do that right now, but you can check that out. And you can also check for plagiarism here. So I'm just going to assign this so that you see how it posts in the classroom. And so when we go to the classroom stream, it will show up, Maureen Armour posted a new assignment example. And when students click on it, they will be able to access the instructions and the file that I have shared for them. Now, if I go back to my classroom and I want to share materials, I can just go and say example number 2. And I can add, again, whatever it is that I would like to share for the students. And this time, let's go with this example document that I use in one of my videos. And again, which classroom, which students, and if I would like to organize it by topic, I can post it there. So I'll post that here. And when you look in the stream, it will show up like this. Maureen posted new material. Example number 2. You can also post things directly to your stream. In my Google Classroom, sometimes I will post just little updates for kids or questions or reminders, and you can do that here just by posting directly into the stream. And when you go under classwork, you can make things a little more organized by going by topic. So you could say math, or another topic I've used as well is past assignments, so that I don't get bogged down with all of my items here. And then you can just drag and drop it to the topic that you would like it categorized under, and this helps you to keep things organized. Additionally, here you can see there is a link for Meet, for Google Calendar, and the class drive folder. When I generate a Meet link for my class, I usually use Google Calendar to do so. So when I click on there, I can go to add a session, and I'll put a title. I set the date and the time. I can add my guests. I can invite the students directly. What I prefer to do is this. So I go join with Google Meet and save. And then when I click here, you can copy this and go into your class stream and say, we are having, you can give them the information, and there is the link. And I would post it like this, because again, like I said, the students, if they go back to this link after you have closed out of the Google Meet, they are able to access the room again. So that's why I like to post it here, because then I can go like this and either delete or edit it. And what I have started to do is go like this and say, thank you for joining our Meet today. And then the post is still there, and then that way if students missed out on anything, you could link relevant information underneath there as well. Back underneath classwork, the class drive folder, it will automatically store any relevant files that you share in a specific folder. So you can go in here and have a look. There's nothing in here yet. But once we have some students and they share some work, it will show up. And then you have templates here as well. Let me see. I just want to make sure that we're not skipping over any of these features. These are good. Great. So another thing that you can do, and I'm only going to go over maybe 2 more things in Google Classroom, and then I will give you an overview of all of the tools that we have in the slideshow, and then we'll have time for questions for specific apps people would like to look at. So when we go back into our classroom here, you can, actually, let's go back so that we can see all of our classes. So to see all of your classes, you can either click here to the main menu, or over to the waffle and go back to classroom. I like using the waffle personally, partly just because I like saying waffle. So you can click over here, and let's say I have a classroom that I really don't need anymore. You can actually archive old classrooms. So what I would do is, and this is just to get rid of the classroom. So archived classes can't be updated unless you restore them. The class will be moved to your archived classes, and the class files will remain in Google Drive. So if you want to get rid of an old classroom, this is the first step. So I've archived that classroom, and then over here, I believe, yes, I scroll down. So again, sorry, I click kind of quickly, main menu. You scroll right down to archived classes, and then you can see old classrooms that I have been a part of or had myself. And from here, you can either restore the classroom, or you can say, I do not need this, and you can delete it, and it will permanently delete anything associated with that class. And that was an example class I used for a video, so I'm going to delete it, and then it's gone. So that is the overview that I have written out for Google Classroom. I'm just going to give you a basic overview of the other things that are provided in our slideshow so that you can see.
Excuse me. Perhaps before we move on, we had a quick question about how do you return assignments to students?
Okay. So Natasha, do you think that you could log in and access the file that I sent you? Just in the interest of confidentiality. When I have done this before, I used my actual classroom with my students' names and their work, and I don't feel like that's going to be appropriate if it's being recorded. So if you can maybe go on and
Oh, actually, one second.
access that, that would be helpful.
Send it to my GNSS?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically what should happen is with the assignment, Natasha, let me see if I can add myself actually as a student, because then I can do it sharing my screen. Yeah, I don't think I can be a student and a teacher at the same time, unfortunately. There we go. And apparently April is your guardian. I like that. So Natasha, when you go on and you click into your classwork, are you able to submit your assignment to me?
Let's see, title goes here. This is a website. And
Let's try this.
yep.
You're able to do it? Yeah.
It's asking me to send. It's asking me to, I had to request edit access.
Okay. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this into the chat. This is a Google Classroom that I set up for some of my coworkers where they can see what it looks like to be a student. So I'm going to pop this in the chat box, and if anybody would like to join a preset Google Classroom and see what it looks like for a student, you can copy and paste the classroom code that's in the chat box right now. And I'm going to pop in and see. So Natasha, did it say you had to request access from me?
Just for one of them, but for the other one, I have success and I've turned in my work.
Perfect, because normally if you get a request for access, which I received multiple times for students, when they were accessing logged in as their parents, not through their GNSPES, if they're not on their GNSPES account, you have to give them permission to access it, because the default setting is that you need to be logged into GNSPES. So for this document, I would have to change the share settings, and I could change it so that it says anyone with access. And we go over share settings for documents as well in another video. But right here, it should, yeah, it says I can share with you. So go ahead. I'll send that to you. Anyways, so you said that you did send me back an assignment?
Yes.
Perfect. So here we go. So assign, it says assigned and turned in. And you turned it in?
I did. I believe I did.
Oh, I'm in the wrong classroom. That's why. Sorry. So this is one problem with having multiple classrooms, is jumping back between all of them. So let's go back here and to sites. Oh, no. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. Classroom. So one of the things that I like to do with students when they are submitting work back to me. So I see Natasha, you left a class comment. Perfect. So here's, okay, this actually, before I get to this, this is an important feature. So with the post here that I set up, there is a way in your settings, sorry, I believe. Yeah, so we're going to turn that off, visible to students. In the stream, you can decide whether you want students to be able to post and comment, or only teacher can post and comment. If you explicitly teach your students what's appropriate for commenting, the commenting feature is great for having them interact. But if you don't give them explicit instruction on that, you may have students who go back and use it like a kind of like a chat room and just comment back and forth to each other. I assigned a project in my class in the fall. In September, one of the first things we did together was on Google Classroom. And when there was days when school was canceled in January and the students were actually going on and like, hey, it's a snow day, commenting to each other, which was very innocent, but I had to go back and explain to them, I'm going to turn the commenting feature off, or, you know, if you're able to use it respectfully and appropriately, we can leave it on. So just as a little note, because I saw that she is commenting on stuff, which is handy. So let's go here. And so it says I have one turned in. So Natasha has turned in her work, and I can see that here. And I can click on her work. and it'll open up the file. And so this would be if she had filled it in. Normally I would give them something they can actually fill in, unlike this particular document. And what I like to do is you can add a private comment, well done. If you have it set for grading, you can give them a grade. You can also comment directly on the document. So when students are writing, sometimes what I will do is I will say, you know, like, please check for punctuation here. And you can also go, you know, great idea, etc. So you can add these comments for your student and they'll get a notification. And some of my students will write back to me and say, thanks for the feedback, okay. And you can interact with them through the comments here and the comments here. And then you can return as well. So a student will be notified and can check any grade you've left. And then you just click return. Did that answer that question, or was that too fast? Hopefully that is okay. What I'm going to do right now is just show you guys some of the other features that we cover in our slideshow. I know the initial section or portion of this presentation was very focused just on Google Meet and Google Classroom. I think it's really important that you go over both of these features in the fall with your class. I really enjoyed using Google Classroom with my students in person, so that yes, you still have it, Marissa. You can still access it after you've returned it. And so once you get started with it, and if you have the sort of the opportunity to work one-on-one with the students, or, you know, whole class to get them set up with these tools, if you do have a situation where you need to transition to online learning, it will make your life much easier. I was so fortunate this year that we had been using Google Apps and a number, like we've been using Google Classroom and a number of Google Apps together in class already. So it made things much, much easier for me. And it's also, it is so useful. You can use it at any grade level, really. It's a little bit more difficult in lower elementary just because they're a little more dependent on you, but I've taught everything from grade primary up to grade 6 with some core French classes, and I was able to use a lot of the features in different grade levels. So it's just about what you teach them to do, and they do need a little more help on the lower grades. So I would definitely recommend trying it out in person first. And even if we don't go online, it will be helpful. And also, you can use it at really any grade level, especially upper grades are where they're more independent, definitely very useful. And some of the tools we're going to go over in this slideshow are going to definitely be applicable in, I think, any subject area and almost any grade level. So I'm going to give you an overview of what's in the slide. This will be available for you after the presentation, and you'll be able to access this anytime you want. And it's full of what we tried to do. We use Screencastify, which the free version limits you to 5 minutes. So there's a series of 5-minute tutorials in this slideshow. So we will link the presentation from today on the first section here. But then when you go to these other sections, you will have tutorials for Google Slides, Google Drive, Google Docs, and Google Sites. So this is where you'll find the link for today's session. We will have it posted here for you to access in the future. And if you're interested in Google Slides, some of our favorite features, we'll go over the basics, how to make your own editable worksheets, and that's either ones you create, or if you have one you really like that you've used in the past that you have a photo or a scanned copy of, how to make stop motion animation, which is fun for you, but is a great learning opportunity for students. They can use this really, they can, you know, visualize how math equations work. They can show you the life cycle of an animal. They can animate a character to tell you about something they've learned. There's endless opportunities here, and that is something I learned at IT Camp from Erica Phillips, I think 2 years ago. So shout out to Erica, thank you. I literally use this in all of my classes. Creating that customized animated banner, like I showed very quickly on my classroom, and embedding videos into slideshows. Now, if you want to jazz up your slides a little more, there's 3 links here, hyperlinked, for free templates that you can use in the classroom as well. So for each slide, you'll see there's a little video here with a really flattering preview image, and it will give you some very basic tips in this video for Google Slides. This one is for making editable worksheets in Google Slides, which is really great for online learning and subplans, as I note. making stop motion animations with Google Slides, making your own animated banner for Google Slides is here as well. And Natasha, I'll get you to edit the share functions on this one. I think this one needs to be updated on YouTube, but this one will show you how to embed a video into a Google Slides presentation and a quick overview using Google Forms and a quick nod to Google Sheets as well. In the Google Drive, we have a basics video that will talk about getting organized. In Google Docs, there will be the basics, adding images and links, sharing Google Docs, and how to force copy an item, and also how to create your own interactive PDFs. So that's with hyperlinks that students or coworkers can click on. So this will go over how to create a Google Doc and quick overview of basic word processing. This will be inserting images and links and different ways to do that. This one again will show you how to share documents. And again, this is great for if you're collaborating with coworkers online or with students, or if your students are collaborating with you or with their classmates as well. And in some of these videos as well, I do talk about how I've used it in my classroom. This is showing how to force copy a file and how to create an interactive PDF using Google Docs. And on Google Sites, we go over the basics, how to add pages, how to add content to your pages, and just a quick look at some of the themes and previews that are available. And again, these videos are all available within the slideshow for you in perpetuity. We will make sure you can access them, and then if you have any questions, because I know that we're starting to run very low on time, you can submit through our slideshow this Google form and send us any questions. You can also reach out to us on Twitter, Madame Armour and Madame McKinnon, and any questions that you have, we will try to get back to you as soon as we can. And that's, you know, during the school year, if you're working on something and you're just, you know, you're having an issue or you have a question, or if you have an idea you want to share with us too, absolutely, that would be very helpful for us. This is a very, very quick overview of things.